Welcome friends, welcome back to the homestead, and I think for the first time into the office. Today's video I want to look at my vegetable garden planning spreadsheet using Microsoft Excel and take you through how I use it, and maybe that'll be of some help to you. So let's get stuck in. So we've got our spreadsheet open here. The first sheet is my seed listing, and I've got it separated into groups, vegetable groups. So you think, as you can see, brassicas, alliums, roots, leaf herb, legumes, cucurbits, I think that's how it's pronounced, seeds, so things like sweet corn and any grains, and then stem and other, which is my green manure. And then just going across, you've got the type and the variety, how many I've currently got. Clearly I'm not going to update that with how many carrot seeds I plant or whatever, but it just gives me a rough idea. The end date on the packet, again, not that I take too much notice of that, depending on what the seed is, but it gives me an idea. Who the supplier was. Until Brexit a few months ago, I used an English seed supplier who was absolutely fantastic, Premier Seeds Direct. I'll give them a big plug and I'll put a link below. If you're in the UK, then I highly recommend them. And they posted that to Latvia, no problem, and everything arrived, no problem. Were they organic or not? Are they recommended for early planting? Possibly. I think that was a good idea at the start, but didn't really use it. Now this is the important part really, is what months to sow them in terms of indoor transplants or seedlings, when to ones that are sown directly outside, things like radish and carrots, how long they take to germinate, when they should be planted out. I stopped using weeks and I found it a bit too confusing, but there's no reason why you couldn't have an extra column and have week data as well if you wanted to separate it. The spacing, the harvest, days to harvest, the height of the plant, which I think my thinking there was in terms of things like nets for butterflies and whatnot. Do they give baby leaves, any notes, and an overwintering option. Overwintering, just for context, like I think if you don't know, I'm in Latvia, North Latvia, near the Estonian border. It's about zone 5 here. Can go down to -30 in the winter and +35 in the summer. So quite an extreme with temperature. Clearly we can't overwinter it outside in the garden unless it's quite mild, but we can utilise the greenhouse. And I'm interested in really extending the growing months to give us some green stuff, now that we've got this kind of permanent bed garden. Now where this comes into its own is with filtering. Filtering is your friend in the context of this spreadsheet. I've already got my filters on. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Excel, let's turn my filters off. You can either click Alt Data F for turn the filters on, or you can go to the Data tab and click filter on and off. Now what that lets us do is filter the columns, and you can filter multiple columns if you want to. There's no need for that really. So in the, let's say for example, the sow indoors column, I've put in there the months that you can sow them indoors, and obviously some seeds can be sowed in multiple months. You kind of have a window, or you have two windows for cold weather crops. So let's say, for example, I want to know what I need to plant in February, which was last month. It's the 3rd of March today. Go to a filter, and I want it to tell me or list all the rows that have February as a requirement. And there's our February planting. What I then do is, when I've planted them, and by that I mean sown seed indoors, I then mark them off with a light green background and a black border, and I've set up a custom filter, a custom cell style for that. So I can just go, okay, boom, and then that's marked off. Let's say, yeah, well, there's obviously not a lot to plant in February, but let's go to March. March gives us a lot more options, but let's say, oh, that's a lot of work to do in March. A lot of these things can be planted in March and April. So let's remove things that can be planted in April. So we can go to our filter again, our auto filter, and we have contains March but does not contain April. So basically either side, and then we have March and February. So that narrows it down a bit. If you wanted to do stuff that was just for March and anything you've missed in February. Obviously with the green I can instantly see what's already planted. So that's quite good, that's really handy. And sorry, you can clear the filter here. Back to all my seeds. So that's my seeds. Planting data is what I've sown and when. And it's a record of when things will happen rather than when things will happen. So the sown date, type and variety, the date I sowed the seeds, the date that I transplanted them out, or the date that I will sow direct, as in the case of these, in the bed number, which will become clear in a minute, or GH for greenhouse. So some of the early stuff really is just to give us some greenery in the greenhouse before we plant tomatoes, which won't be into May or something like that. So we've got a few months to use the greenhouse for. What date they were harvested, any notes, so damage from an insect or something. Okay, so let's look at our bed plans. So there's the plan for 2020. If you're, I'll do an overlay here of what the garden looks like with a drone shot, just so you're familiar with it. There's lots of other videos. You can see how we built the garden in a video, which I'll link up to the top corner here and down in the description below, which gives you some context about how we built the garden. So we've basically got 4 rows of 7 beds. These they're 10 meters wide by 75 centimeters. 10 meters long by 75 centimeters wide. And these beds are 8 meters, just a bit shorter. And we've got, like I say, the 4 rows of beds, 4 sections, and then the beds have bed numbers, or they do this from this year onwards. That just shows me, for the purposes of rotation, what was planted where. I'm sorry if you can't read the text, but it will be clear on the next. This is just for an overview, really, to show you for context. So if we look at March this year, clearly not a lot to plant out because for most of February and into March there's been snow and the ground's still frozen out there. There is some overwintered garlic though. So, and this bed here in the bottom corner is for cut flowers and some herbs. So what happens, or what will happen in April? I've started by looking on the seeds. If I go to plant out, go back to my filters. Okay, so we've got what we need to plant in April. You can see what I've already, the greens, obviously you know there's something available to plant. So we'll find, still stuff that obviously I will be planting in March that will be available then, late May probably, but it's still May. And we can start planning where things are going to go, and I've already done that for April. I'm conscious of the fact that down this end of the garden there's a bit more shade, certainly in the later months, and less so at the top end. This is the sunniest end of the garden, full sun there, partial sun down here. Well, full sun in the middle as well, really, but although we're doing a lot of work at the moment to allow more light to come through. And then May, very much very similar. Obviously, then more stuff comes online and needs planting. Broad beans, for example, we sow those direct here. And then June, etc. Let's just delete June for now and pretend that's not there. So let's say I've planted everything. I've planned everything that I need to plant in May. Now I want to start doing June. So all I need to do is go right click on that, move and copy. I'm sure sorry if that's off screen. Create a copy. And then I want to put the selected sheets before the weather, the last sheet. And then I'll call that June. So now I've got everything that's planted is still in the ground from May, and now I can start working on June's plan. And then when I come to do July, I'll then have all of June's and previous data, and then I will start. I will have that to work on as well. Obviously, when we start getting to July and August, we've got some succession plantings to go in, because things like pak choy and some of these lettuces would have finished by then. Early turnips perhaps will be, and things like that. Certainly by July, August, we'll be taking out onions and things like that. So there'll be room to start planting the sort of autumnal winter crops then. I mean, realistically, because of our zone, we only get really 2 successions. But bear in mind, that's one more succession, or 100% more succession than we had the year before last, before this garden was built. And this year, obviously, it's all ready to roll. When we built the garden, we built this section first, then we built this section, and then this section, and then this section wasn't available until later on in the year. But now it's all ready to go. And then lastly, I'm keeping some weather data as of today. So I've got the date, the high and the low that predicted by weather.com or on my app on the iPhone. I've got the Latvian TV, what they predict. I found it not particularly accurate, but I think it's interesting for comparison. Certainly the data sources are different. The wind from today and the direction, I'm looking for patterns there really. Particularly windy year last year. Any precipitation, any prognosis coming up. They're talking about snow overnight tonight. Actual high and actual low. I'll see. I'm not going to get up in the middle of the night and check the weather. Whether we watered the garden, and any notes about any sort of anomalies that happen with the weather that might be interesting, or things that happen, or anything that I did really in the day. So today I tidied and raked the greenhouse beds. More sort of observations, I suppose, really. The plan with the actual data is that we'll have a weather station that will feed in to this at some point. In fact, I hopefully have data from in the greenhouses as well and other sections. So that's my Excel spreadsheet garden planner. Obviously, we've got quite a bit to plan here. If you've got a smaller garden, it will still work for you, this kind of system. Or if you've got a bigger garden, it will work for you as well. You can delineate it. You don't have to have months. You could have weeks, and really sort of become quite granular about your planning. But for us, it's kind of a halfway house. I want a professional to sort of come at it as a professional would, but I appreciate we're a homestead. We're growing for ourselves here. As demanding as my customers are, which is my family. We're still only a homestead, but this gives us enough to sort of keep on top of things, and it's the kind of way I like to work. Now, if you're interested in getting hold of this, then get in touch with us. The email's in the About section. I will gladly share it on the basis that you will help me develop it. So you need to give me feedback, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, how can I improve it, and I can automate some things as well if that would be helpful. That would be really helpful to me anyway. So by all means, get in touch by email. If you've got a comment that you can see straight away, then leave a comment below. That will be really helpful as well. If you like the video, if you found it helpful, then please give me a thumbs up. That's really helpful for our channel as well. That's it, I think. And yeah, as I update things and improve it, I will do update videos later in the year, of course, as well. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.